Good morning. One thing Michael Brooks used to talk about is recognizing the ends of things, recognizing the where stuff goes, understanding that sometimes the right can talk populism and they might be able to talk some things that make some sense here and there, but understanding the end wages of it is genocide. Um, I want to talk about what I feel is very important for the left to remember throughout this whole January the 6th case, the different defendants, the different things that are at play here. And I'm talking about Alex Jones's case. Well, let's get right to it. I saw on MSNBC this morning, they're saying that there was some type of communication between Trump and the Oath Keepers about security and about a parallel government or something like that, parallel security or something like that. This goes back to a video I made the other day about Herman Cain fan club and how it's important to remember how the discussion is shifted to understand how we got where we are today and understand the connection to the past. When January 6th happened, people were saying that, this wasn't an insurrection, that it's just the left hyping it up, this is a bunch of, drunk idiots, that they didn't have guns. What kind of insurrection happens without guns? Well, we know they had guns. They had guns at a hotel not far from the Capitol. So there was a plan for that, There have been military operations where they didn't use armor, but they had armor nearby. They had stuff nearby in case of. It's called a quick reaction force. I remember hearing right wingers just make all kind of excuses, and I've talked to you guys before about the danger of that. Understanding that that's what the right does. That you have a lot of people on the right who are not racists, who are not Klansmen. They're not card-carrying Klansmen, but they ideologically agree with those people, and they probably wish that type of world would happen. They just don't want to lose what they got. So they're going to always downplay. They're going to always minimize serious stuff. We know now there was communication between the president and oath-keeping other groups. In my mind, that's treason. That's what it is. As I said, it proves that this whole thing was a lot more serious than a bunch of bumpkins just running up on the Capitol and making a bunch of noise for a couple hours. This was planned. This was orchestrated from the very highest office of the government, and we have a president that did nothing. He did nothing for hours. Cops died. People got hurt. $1,000 of damage. This was treason. And before anybody says that maybe he didn't know it would get that bad, that's not how the law works. There's plenty of people who have went along for robberies and stuff, and their intent was to make some money, and the robbery wound up with people dying. Guess what? That's murder. Yeah. They wound up going to what? Prison. Doesn't matter if you were just there holding a gun. Doesn't matter if you didn't pull the trigger. You're still going to prison. So I think it needs to be understood the seriousness of the times and the seriousness of what happened. I think that there were people on the left. Let me go to that. There's people on the left who felt like this whole case isn't moving fast enough. And I was one of those people. And that Biden needs to create a whole new set of laws to deal with January the 6th. He just set a new set of laws to deal with, white supremacist terrorism. I remember Sam Cedar made a great point, and I would have loved to hear Michael on this. But, Sam Cedar basically made the point that historically the left has always been the people behind the law. I mean, the people that are getting beaten, their heads beaten in by the law. Whether it be Dr. King on Edmund Pettus Bridge, whether it be the Stonewall back in the day in New York City with the gay folk getting beat up, Whether it be Nixon going after blacks and the anti-war hippies, Operation Merrimack, Operation Chaos, Operation Mockingbird. These were operations created against the American left to surveil, to tail them, to prosecute them, and to really delegitimize, to connect the blacks with the heroin trade, and to connect the hippies with marijuana, to delegitimize them. To where even now people will say, you sound like a hippie. They've been given that. I think it's dangerous for the left. And I understand it, but I think it's dangerous for the left to put all our eggs in one basket and to say that, well, the answer to white supremacy, when it rears its ugly head, is more law. I think that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous mindset. Because if nothing else, I've learned the last couple of years, this whole thing can be turned on you in a heartbeat. You had CEOs that have lost everything. You had people that had six-figure salaries that lost everything. I've talked about this before. So I think that the left, we need to understand that. Go back to the Black Panthers. Shit. Look what they did to them guys. Just for carrying guns in the state house. They had quickly rolled out the gun laws in California because of Mumford Act. Look at that. So I think it's dangerous for the left to, and I know MSNBC and the liberal, the corporatist liberal media is going to say that because they're about legitimacy, and that's what they want to do. They want to create legitimacy, and because they know the only people watching them programs are old people. Everybody else is getting podcasts. Everybody else is getting news from YouTube and stuff like that. No one else is watching that stuff generally, other than a few programs. And they were saying, why is it taking so long? It happened back in happened a year ago, and we're still talking about it. Over a year now, this April. The law is supposed to move slowly, especially in cases of great moment like this. These people went in and attacked the very bedrock of our democracy with the intent of overthrowing the government, with the intent of, from what I understand, kidnapping high-level members of our government, with the intent of overthrowing the government. And if you're saying you're going to take the government house for the purposes of keeping a president in, you are overthrowing the government. That's like if a man gets fired and goes back with a gun and says, I want my job back. You're overthrowing the business because the business has already said, we don't want you here. You made the decision to, like I said, the law is supposed to move slowly because those people, no matter how outrageous their actions may have been, are entitled to a good defense. They're entitled to due process. They're entitled to the right to a speedy trial. They're entitled to the right to face their accusers in court. They're entitled to the right to a review of the evidence presented against them. They are entitled to these rights as American citizens, and I think that no matter how we may feel about them, no matter how corrosive the rhetoric might be out here, I think it's important on the left for us to respect that. I'm hearing, and I ain't heard no more about this. I remember hearing that the Capitol Police, which are at the Capitol, they want to have like branches in other states and stuff. They want to branch out and stuff like that. No one talked about that. That's government. That's government growth. I don't want that. I don't think the solution in January the 6th is more police officers. I don't want that. That's not what I want. I think it's messed up what happened. I think it's messed up how those officers and their families were treated in the aftermath of January the 6th. I think it's sad. I think it's a reminder who runs this government. I think it's a reminder how many people feel about the police. The police are a necessary evil to preserve and uphold white supremacy. And if you think that badge is going to protect you from white supremacy when it breaks out, when you get your hard hat riots, when you get your January the 6th, then you got another thing coming. You know, I think that January the 6th was a lesson to everybody, to the world. Anyway, I think it's important to remember, as on the left, that the law is used to persecute the left. And if you think that because you had a black president for a couple of years, and because if you think you had a woman Secretary of State, and you think that you got some gay people in the White House, that things have changed, you got another thing coming. This country is ugly and nasty as it always was. And changing our laws, changing the way people are prosecuted, is wrong. Now, if you want to call them terrorists, if you want to use terrorism stuff, that's a different discussion. But if you're going to use the American Code of Law, those folks are entitled to their rights, their due process, and everything else I've mentioned here. Thanks for listening.